So, I know this is coming in a bit late, there are tons of reviews of the new Death Note adaptation already, but I just can't resist the opportunity to rip this film multiple new assholes, picking apart every little thing that I can. With that said, doing a video like that will take quite a while, and I'm actually going to be on vacation for the next 2 weeks, so that video is going to have to wait. Boo is coming. The day of reckoning for this bucket of vomited turds is on its way, and it will be here soon enough. Oh, just you wait. For now, I'd just like to have a quick talk about my overall feelings on the film. Think of it as an unbiased quickie review, even though there will be some bias, so fuck it. Nothing I say matters anymore. Completely disregard everything I say in this review. It's pointless. It's meaningless. You're wasting your time, damn it. Get the fuck out of my channel. What are you, fucking retarded? What the fuck are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here! Seriously though, I'm gonna try to look at this as objectively as possible. Anyways, Death Note. I imagine, or would like to anyways, that whoever is watching this is already familiar with the basic premise. High school student gets magic notebook and uses it to satisfy his god complex, which leads him to a standoff with the world's greatest detective. But how does that translate into an hour and 40-minute film? Not very well, unfortunately. Even if you throw all knowledge of the original source material out of your head, which is what this film wants you to do, it still suffers from a lot of problems. But let's focus on what I think are the two big ones. Problem number 1. It feels more like a tragic teen love story than a Death Note story. You get a good sense of this by the opening scene of the movie. The film starts off with Light helping some kid cheat on their homework, while him and Mia stare at each other with so much sexual tension that you can cut the air with a fucking dildo. Even as the movie progresses on, the main conflict Light ends up facing isn't the morality of his choices or even L. It's dealing with Mia and loving her and not being able to trust her because clearly she's a psychopath. Even as Light picks up the mantle as Kira and starts killing off criminals, it's interjected with softcore porn footage of him and Mia getting it on. They focus on those two so much to the point where L, who is supposed to be the main character of the series next to Light, feels underutilized because they had to make sure to give time towards the conflict between Light and Mia. Like, other than figuring out that Kira's in Seattle, Kira can't kill without a face, and Light is Kira, L doesn't really do anything in this movie that's noteworthy. There's not really much he does to aid the investigation, because just as he starts making a dent, something happens to Rotari, and L goes crazy from then on, and just spends the rest of the movie looking for Light until it leads to a chase scene that's ultimately pointless because L is just knocked out by a random Kira supporter, effectively ending his involvement in the movie. Well, except for one scene that never gets explained at the end and feels like it's just there to set up a sequel. I think the other big problem this movie has is that the main character is a fucking retard. Even without comparing him to the original Light, which I actually did my best not to do, I wanted to look at this character as his own character. I found it hard to root for this guy when literally more than half the problems he faces are only brought on him because of his own carelessness, inability to think ahead, and lack of understanding of the Death Note, among other things. To make it even worse, they try to have this haha, he pulled the wool over everyone's eyes plot twist moment, but they completely pull it out of their ass, and it still doesn't change all the other dumb shit he does. I mean, after using the Death Note twice, this guy decides he's gonna bring it to school and openly read it like it's 3rd grade fucking show and tell. And then he decides to show its power to some girl who, up to this point, he has never really talked to or even really knows, and just trusts that she isn't gonna rat him out or worse, try to fuck him over, which is exactly what she tries to do. So you're telling me that telling somebody who you barely know that you have a magical murdering notebook isn't a great idea? I never would have thought! And that's just one example of the many poor decisions this Light makes. Again, don't mean to compare to the original source material, but when Light in the manga learns that the note's powers are legit, he goes through every measure necessary, even some that were unnecessary, like rigging up his desk drawer to catch on fire to keep the note a secret from everyone, and dedicates any time he can to learning every single rule of the book and how he can use it to his advantage. Light in Netflix's Death Note, however, takes barely any steps to keep it hidden and is constantly looking through the rules or asking Ryuk about them because he can't be bothered to spend one afternoon looking through the book until near the end of the movie. This could all be forgiven had he at least been a relatable or likable character, but he isn't. Literally the first time he speaks in the movie, it's standing up to a bully for Mia, who at this point has never spoken to him before, which makes the whole thing come off as a desperate attempt for him to get some pussy. But to make it worse, he uses one of the lamest defenses ever by telling the bully that if he punches him, he will be charged with hitting a minor. Like, why don't you threaten to call his mommy while you're at it? Like, what are you, in fucking kindergarten? I felt no sympathy for this Light after that moment. But it's other things too. Every time any pressure is put on this character, he starts to always doubt himself and go through the whole, I'm not sure we should actually be doing this fucking spiel. Something I wouldn't have had such a problem with had they at least had him finally turn into the relentless psychopath his character is supposed to be. But he doesn't. He of course has to realize his wrongs, because it's not like Light is supposed to be the villain or anything. No, that totally wasn't the case in the fucking manga. No, not at all. And I get what they're trying to do here. Put it in the perspective of what it would have been like if Light was just like any other kid. But one of the big points of Light's character is that he isn't like any other kid. He succeeds where millions of others would have failed. He persevered when most would have given up. In fact, something I picked up on while watching the movie is Mia acts more like Light than Light. She's the one who's willing to do the hard things to protect Kira's identity, including killing people she's supposed to care about. She's the one who's manipulative. She's the one who fully believes in what they are doing and doesn't give up despite how much pressure is on her. You know, all definitive parts of Light's character, but fuck it, let's make Light a borderline whimpering coward and throw all the character traits he's known for on another character. Now, is the whole movie bad? No. I've heard at least one person compare this to Dragon Ball Evolution, and though I have never seen that movie, I would have to strongly disagree. There are redeeming things about this film. For starters, William Dafoe as Ryuk. I mean, I suspected from the start that he'd be the best part of the film, and he is, but that's just because William Dafoe is a perfect fit for the character. I mean, that's just a really good casting choice. But even without that, he's easily the best written character in the entire movie. They reached a nice balance of making him feel menacing and mischievous while keeping his sense of neutrality. In fact, I liked how the movie played up the idea of Ryuk actually being a villain by making you think he's fucking with Light's plans when he really isn't. I also like the dark sense of humor they gave him. There's this one part in the movie where he's explaining the rules to Light, and he makes a joke about how you can't kill people with shark attacks while they're on the toilet. And I couldn't help but to laugh because it fit. I mean, I can actually see Ryuk saying something like that. The cinematography is pretty good as well. Not amazing, but I appreciate how everything is not just flatly filmed, and you can tell effort went into giving the scene some sort of visual flair. The soundtrack was actually pretty decent, well, except for one scene near the end of the movie where they decide to play a song that completely doesn't fit the scene and kills all tension it would have otherwise had, but I'll talk about that more in my full review. Though kinda cheap looking, I didn't mind the gore. It added a kind of B-movie camp feeling to the film that at the very least was entertaining. Lastly, L wasn't as bad as I thought he was gonna be. Do I have my problems with him? Yes. Mainly I think he gets way too emotional near the end of the movie. But after watching it, I can say the actor did a pretty good job with what he was given. He's able to pull off most of L's physical mannerisms while adding some of his own. And he pulls off L's tone of voice, which I would like to quickly clarify because in my last Death Note video, somebody thought that what I was saying was that the definitive factor in L's voice is that he speaks in monotone and that's it. But if I were to give my own description of how L speaks and his tone of voice, I would have to say he is reserved, while also having conviction in his words. And I think this actor pulls that off quite well. At least until Rotari goes missing. Then he just proceeds to act crazy for the rest of the film. But even then, I can appreciate how they tried to justify L acting like that in a meaningful way. I mean, I feel L would have handled Rotari's death differently. If anything, it would have motivated him to solve the case even more, not chase Light down the streets. But I do believe that if anything were to get L to act that way, it would be something happening to Rotari. I mean, Rotari is the closest thing L has to a father, so it does make sense. But ultimately, the bad outweighs the good. Again, it's those two big problems I mentioned before that really kill the movie for me, but it's tons of little shit on top of that as well. The movie is too fast-paced and literally jumps through plot points at times. They make a lot of small changes for no other reason than we can make changes, like Light being the only one who can see Ryuk regardless if anyone else has touched the book, or Light's mom being dead, which literally does nothing for the movie except give Light the motivation to become Kira. But to me, what made Light's decision so impactful in the manga was that he had no personal motive for becoming Kira other than his own sense of morality and justice. In fact, he loses more by becoming Kira than he gains. Becoming Kira eventually tears his family apart. He even knew that was a possibility from the start, and he still chose to do it. Also, you really couldn't think of anything better than his mom died? Hold on, wait, gotta answer this call. Yeah? Yeah, I'll tell them. That was the superhero genre. It wants its cliches back. I mean, why don't you just kill his dad while you're at it, give him a cape and a mask, and fucking call him Batman? The movie ends on a cliffhanger. I stated this before, but I really do feel like L is pushed aside to focus more on Light and Mia. The movie does a poor job of tackling the morality aspect of Light's actions, which is saying a lot because the manga didn't do a great job of that either, so yeah. And lastly, there's just way too many plot holes in the movie. I mean, I'm going to be making a full video just tackling every single fucking thing that happens in this god-awful movie, but there's just so many things that, if you think about it logically, just destroys this movie in any suspension of disbelief. Anyways, that's just how I feel about it. Again, there's more reasons why I dislike this film, but it mainly boils down to that, even on its own basis, it's not very good. The main character is not very likable or smart, and it focuses more on Mia and Light's relationship when it should have either focused on the morality of using the Death Note or the battle between Light and L. However, I'm gonna go play in traffic now, so I'll see you all later.